No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mandel. The Illegal Curve post-game show, presented by Play Now, the official sports betting partner of the Winnipeg Jets, starts now.
I have to say, we're all going to have, I say we as in the three of us, we as in everybody that's joining us watching this edition of the post-game show, we're all going to have a lot more time on our hands. We only need to watch the final 30 seconds of the Jets games. That's it. We don't need to watch the first 59 minutes and 30 seconds anymore.
Cardiac Jets, Drew.
Yeah, the cardiac Jets, just the final 30 seconds. That's all it takes. You can watch 59 and a half minutes of it where they're losing or on the verge of losing, and then they win. I mean, it's, you know, we're sort of running out of hyperbole. We're running out of adjectives. We thought, you know, on Saturday night when they come back and do it in St. Louis, that was entertaining. And then lo and behold, tonight against, you know, the worst team in the league in the San Jose Sharks, the Jets are dominant beyond words for the entirety of the game. It certainly looks like they're not going to pull it out. I mean, Josh Morrissey's on the ice for like 8 minutes to end the game, and somehow he still has the energy to turn the puck up ice and tie the game for the Winnipeg Jets. I mean, I just don't know what else you have to say about this team, folks. 10 games in a row, 10 wins in a row. I'll tell you what we're going to have to say. We're going to say, good evening, Winnipeg. Good evening, Manitoba. And for all those joining us this evening on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms, we say good evening, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Along with Dave Manouk, along with Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. The post-game show, of course, brought to you by our friends at Play Now. The Jets, winners again, 10 in a row, 2-1 tonight over the San Jose Sharks. Certainly was not a beauty, but it was a dominant one-sided effort, and I was prepared to say, well, you know, can't predict puck. There it goes. You know, Jets get goalied, whatever kind of cliche you want to use. Instead, they pull the rabbit out of the hat. I'll use that cliche instead, and the Jets somehow come out with the victory.
Well, guys, it was looking like for like 59 and a half minutes that the Colin Miller blast off the crossbar was going to be the Seagram shot of the game, right? But obviously, you know, Josh Morrissey comes through big, helped by deflection off of Mario Ferraro, who we were talking about right before we went live here. Like, boy, would he look good in a Jets jersey as a third pairing left side defenseman, right? Yeah. Obviously, guys, you know, we don't want to, you know, get too ahead of ourselves here because we still have a little bit of time before the trade deadline. But a guy like Ferraro, I mean, just look at who was out on the ice for the Sharks in overtime, right? Ferraro was out there, and obviously, you know, the Jets had their top guys out there for the majority of the overtime. Mark Scheifele was out there for the whole thing, so was Josh Morrissey. But Kyle Connor makes that line change, and then you get the burst of speed from Nikolai Ehlers, and then Mark Scheifele obviously deposits the rebound off the Ehlers shot, right, guys? But, yeah, I mean, look, that third period was the definition of the Sharks hanging on to a 1-goal lead in the second game of a back-to-back, right? Because they obviously lost in Calgary last night. This is the second game of I think it's a 7-game road trip.
They're going coast to coast. They're playing every Canadian team, if I'm not mistaken. So they're
going to lose every single game.
You know what? Look, we know that San Jose is where they are in the standings, but you have to respect, you know, the young talent that is on that team.
They're going to be good in a few years, Drew. Give this team 2 or 3 years. They're going to be pretty good.
Macklin Celebrini is a superstar already. You can see he controls the ice a lot when he's on that ice surface. So you know how good he is. But you talk about Mario Ferraro because, you know, he's certainly been a target for a lot of Winnipeg Jets fans when you talk about the trade deadline, which is coming up on the 7th of March. So that's really, you know, we're talking about 10, 11, 12 days away. He's a guy who plays, you know, left side. He's a top pairing left side defenseman for the Sharks. You know, on most teams, he's not in that role. He's in an elevated role, obviously playing for San Jose. He's under contract for 1 more year after this year, which is only going to increase his value for any team acquiring him. He plays 24 minutes and 19 seconds today for the San Jose Sharks. You know, 4 hits, 4 block shots. He's the sort of prototypical warrior that you need. I mean, look, a lot of his numbers aren't going to look great, but you know that he's the kind of guy that a lot of teams are going to be calling San Jose about, and I think the Winnipeg Jets are going to be close. You know, you hear Jamie Alexiak, you hear the guys on the left side from Seattle. Mario Ferraro is certainly somebody I'm sure Kevin Cheveldayoff has had a conversation or two about.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair point, Drew. And there's no question that my suspicion, and I was talking about it with Mike McIntyre of the Winnipeg Free Press today. I was continuing our conversation from Saturday morning with Mike, boys.
Can't get enough of you.
No, we sit that close. He's only got Judy Owen of the Canadian Press between us, so he can't get away from me. But you know, one of the things that we talked about is it doesn't seem likely the Jets are going to add before the trade deadline. It seems like they'll wait till the trade deadline simply because they don't want to have to make any sort of roster moves. And once they no longer have to worry about the roster other than being cap compliant, it seems likely that they'll start making those moves on the Friday, March 7th. But yeah, I mean, for sure, you definitely look at teams like San Jose and other ones like Seattle, the teams that are falling out of it as prime opportunities. But like, this was an interesting game, boys, because, you know, obviously the power play goal, and it was funny because San Jose's power play, woeful. Their PK, which when the Jets last played them 25 games ago, so 2 months ago, and they won, their PK was, I think, 11th overall in the entire NHL, and it slipped to 23rd. So none of
and since January 1st, Dave, because in my preparation for tonight's game, I looked it up. Since January 1st to now, the Sharks have the 32nd ranked PK. And you saw that on the Jets' second power play. I thought the first power play wasn't as effective, but when the second unit was out there, you could see the Sharks looked really disorganized in their own zone.
And I think the Jets played a disconnected game. There was just a lot of overpassing in the first and second periods. They just didn't seem like as crispy as we were used to seeing them. And I'm not surprised. Again, there has been a long layoff between, and obviously they played a game on Saturday. I'm not making excuses, but it just seemed like the team that we're used to watching. And you got to credit San Jose. They played a tough game. And like, as he mentioned, they were in Calgary last night. They lost that game, flew to Winnipeg, and then had to play another game against a big opponent in the Winnipeg Jets. But I just like the fact that there's just no, I mean, should we just repeat what we played after Saturday night tonight? I mean, we might have less audio issues or less issues altogether, but it's just it's a testament to this team that just doesn't quit. And Josh Morrissey, I mean, I don't know what they clocked someone clocked his final shift, but if he didn't play over 2.5 minutes, there's someone at the podium, but it's definitely not.
No, it's definitely not Scott Arniel.
Not Scott Arniel.
Yeah, we're going to bring you.
Is that Macklin Celebrini at the podium? He looks like a youngster.
I don't know who it is,
somebody. I'm not sure who it is. The folks watching can't see. We have a camera backstage that we're going to bring in when Scott Arniel.
Well, sometimes they do this they might be doing audio level checks. So who knows about that? But regardless of why. But anyways, let's get back to the game.
You got distracted yourself, Dave.
I did distract myself. I apologize to the audience, but I just think that it's just another example of a team. I'm not going to call them a team of destiny. Kind of are a team of destiny with the fact that, like you said, Drew, that we're running out of things to say. I mean, this is a team that has now won 10 in a row. And I know the franchise, in quotes, Atlanta franchise and Jets franchise was 9. But as our good friend Joe Pascucci mentioned today on Twitter, the actual old franchise, the Jets 84-85, which Scott Arniel would have been a part of, was 9 games. So now with having won 10, this is the most of an NHL team, because I'm sure the WHA Jets probably did something similar, if not more. So this is the most of an NHL team for a Winnipeg-based NHL team has done.
Yeah, and sorry, Drew, can I just say one thing before? I think we're going to have Scott Arniel in the next few seconds here, so you can cut me off, obviously. But can we also talk about just how awesome it was to see Pokey Reddick in the building for Black History Month? And also shout out to Ray Neufeld, who obviously does a lot of work with True North and the right from Manitoba. But, you know, like you kind of wonder, like, right? Like, was there the Pokey Reddick luck on the Jets side as it took them 59.5 minutes to get the game's first goal, or the Jets' first goal, right? But that was just awesome. And I thought Adnan Virk did a great job interviewing Ray Neufeld and Pokey Reddick. Just wanted to get that in there because Pokey Reddick's not a guy you see very often, right? We saw Daniel Berthiaume. We had him back on the show in the TSN radio days, right? think we had him on a couple times talking about, obviously Pokey and the Bandit and everything like that. But just great to see him in the
fishing for
broadcast.
sea bass, has he?
And also, guys, sorry, this might be an advertisement for Prime here. They do an awesome job, and great to see the sheriff back in Winnipeg as well.
Well, then the best, I mean, yeah, they showed the old photo of the sheriff, Shane Knighty, and then they showed Dennis Bayak, and then they showed some other guy that was between them, and they didn't acknowledge who the other guy was. It was a good broadcast. And John Forsland, who's been a good friend of our program and has been going back to his years with the Carolina Hurricanes, does a great job calling the game, and very effusive, very complimentary about the arena, about Winnipeg. So that is great to see, and that shines through certainly on the broadcast. They do a nice job.
That's a great broadcast. It's the little things, right? It's like the different camera angles, and it's the in-game features. Also, Thomas Hickey, I think, has turned into a really good analyst after his pro career has ended, right? Like, so just good on the Prime crew. They're doing a good job.
I will say, as it was funny because before
Blake Bolden too, I wanted to mention her
when we sat down in the press box. It was funny because they were just showing us the overhead angle. Are we not getting Prime? Does Canada Life Center not subscribe to Prime? And we're not going to be able to watch the game on the TVs. Eventually, they did turn it. And I will say that Pokey Reddick, I forgot how small he is because of course we walked past each other in the press box. He said, "Hey Dave, love IC, big ACSG fan. That Ginsburg guy, he's really my jam."
No, but when they were showing clips of him making that save on Mario Lemieux, like suck that to my veins. Like I could watch that stuff all day long.
Now I don't remember the answer. Sorry, Dave, for a second. I don't remember the answer, but I hope somebody in the chat does. Does anybody remember the name of the card store that Pokey Reddick owned on Corden Avenue? I think it was right after it, maybe, probably during his playing days. I think it was probably when he was still a member of the Jets. He owned a card store on Corden Avenue, right across from the mall that Rumors is in. There was an old TD Bank there that's no longer there. I wonder if anybody remembers the name of that card store. I don't.
Daryl saying the Crease. It was called the Crease.
Okay, well that could
That's
very
what
well
Daryl
be.
I was going to say we were close to maybe having to call Jeremy Lee for the answer on that one. Shout out to him, right? He used to own what was his card shop? Now I'm forgetting his name. He had that card shop on Grant. I should know this.
Anyways,
it's not important, but
no, I was just going to say it was cool. The crowd loved seeing him, and I know the media is rolling in right now, but the crowd loved seeing Pokey Reddick, and he got a real warm ovation from everybody in Winnipeg, not surprisingly. And it was a good environment, even though I tweeted
JJ Sports Cards. That's what it was called.
Oh, there you go. Oh, there's Scott O'Neill.
Scott, let's start with Josh Morrissey, a guy who obviously was so sick less than a week ago, missed as a huge game, and I saw a stat that played something like close to 8 of the final 12 minutes of that period, which is just incredible. When he scored, it had been over 2 minutes straight that he's on the ice. What does that say about his character, his endurance, and really everything about the player?
He's a tough guy to pull off the ice. He wants to be in those situations. We spent a lot of time just in their end, so it wasn't like you had to race up and down the ice. And don't always ever want to, get yourself caught in that. But at the end of the day, that's one thing about Josh. His recovery is amazing. And, he said this morning he felt like he was 100%. And so, don't always want to go quite that high with the minutes, but certainly paid off.
And obviously, you probably don't want it to become a habit that you're constantly needing a goal in the final minute to tie a game up, but you guys have done a pretty nice job of that 2 in a row now. Was this a game where it felt like it was a just result? I mean, you obviously carried the play for long stretches, right?
Yeah, that was just sticking with it, said to you before, it may take the first period and you win a hockey game, or it may go right to the end like it did again tonight. It's just staying with it, but we had so many chances. We had so many good looks and crossbars, and VTech made some big stops, and but at the end of the day, we hung in there and we just stayed with it, and found a way, and with traffic and him shooting it from that bad angle, and found its way in.
Just last one for me, but obviously a storybook finish. Mark needed that one more goal to become the franchise leader, and to do it the way he did tonight, couldn't script it any better, I guess. Nice feather in his cap to now stand alone in the franchise.
Yeah, that's a great accomplishment for, just shows the longevity, how he's played, throughout his career. And he should be real proud of what he's done and so far, but he's got lots more to go. But to do it on a game winner in overtime, it certainly be remembered. He'll remember that one.
Sorry. With the goal obviously being the goal record, did it feel like anticipation within the room for this with Mark, or is that going to maybe happen when he gets closer to Dale?
Yeah, I think that, it's funny because the break kind of stalled it out. He kind of got those ones before it, and so it might have been over everybody's mind a little bit, other than maybe Mark's. But I think that. Yeah, you could tell once he got it that, in the room afterwards, everybody's pretty excited for him.
You guys won the face-off battle, 51%, I believe it was. But face-offs have been an area kind of a weakness recently for your group. Is that just kind of a matter of ebbs and flow, or is that something that you're kind of concerned about?
You're talking about on the season? You're talking about the last few games?
Last few games and such like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have a different stat than what is coming off the game sheet. We look at 50-50 pucks, and we have a way that we go about it to keep track of it. It's real hard for centermen in this league to win the face-offs clean, straight back to whoever. So we put a lot of emphasis on, getting into those situations where your wingers and your defense have to help you on them. And I think all season long we've done a way better job of, helping our centermen in those areas. So we have some numbers that we look at that, and I think that, like you said tonight, we had some good looks, but at the end of the day, if you can start with a puck, it may not be the draw itself, it may be the battle that gets you that puck. That's important, and it's something we've talked about as an organization right from the start of the year.
So to clarify, given your internal stats and whatnot, the face-offs itself wouldn't be much of a concern then?
Our face-offs?
Yeah.
Oh, big time. Big time. Starting with the puck is big. And then if you look at power play, starting with the puck. If you look at penalty kill, winning that draw and getting it down the ice. You're playing against puck possession teams. You don't want them to have the puck, obviously. And we have a lot of things that we sort of emphasize at the start of the year and face-offs, but not just all the pressure being on our centerman to be the guy that ends up every night 50% plus. It's who ends up with the puck, and that's how we look at it. Where there's a lot of 50-50s that are sitting behind our centerman, sitting behind their centerman. Who gets that puck? And that's an area that we've tried to really push our team on to make sure that we are the ones getting it. May not register on the NHL sheet that way, but we have a way that we're tracking it.
And one last one. Obviously, at sometimes the crowd's yelling "shoot" and whatnot to the fans, but when you're in a game like that where the other team is blocking so many shots, is it almost hard not to be selective in certain situations when you have the puck for that long?
Yeah, there's a situation. I thought early in the game we were trying to make one more pass. We were trying to be a little bit cute on it, but then we did start to shoot the puck, and they were getting in lanes. But at the end of the day, you have to let these guys use their skill set. If you go out and just tell them shoot, they're going to get frustrated because they keep hitting bodies. And I think that our guys are experienced enough, they're skilled enough that they're going to find lanes. They're going to know when it's time to hit it. If you're going through extended periods of time where you're not shooting pucks, you're probably going to get after the group I'm talking about games. You're probably going to get after the group to be a little bit more selfish and shoot those pucks at times. But I think our group has done a good job of kind of the mix. We know when to make that seam play, maybe to make that one more pass. But I like Josh's goal. It was a situation, came down and knew that there was traffic, had a lane and got it there. And I thought we did a better job in the third period of getting it by that first block and got it down lower and created the chaos.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
There he goes, Winnipeg Jets head coach Scott Arniel joining us tonight from the Matt Frost Media Center live here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Ezra Ginsburg, Dave Manouk with you. Jets 2-1 victors. They pull it out in the end and then into overtime over the San Jose Sharks to extend the franchise winning streak to 10 games in a row. They just keep on rolling as they get closer and closer to a playoff spot. It's only a matter of time, of course, in that end. And then as the real season begins come playoff time. Let's get into the goal-by-goal recap. There's not many of them. There's only 3 goals tonight, but we'll do it anyways.
I figured we'd have more preamble, Drew. I mean, come on. There's only 3 goals to discuss, for God's sakes.
Well, we can do it. You don't have to get right into the goals once I hit the button. I'm just going to hit the button, and then we can continue talking about the game. I just don't want to forget to hit the button. That's the important part. In any event, here is me pressing the button now.
The Play Now game recap.
I press the button, magic happens, the Play Now game recap begins. Don't bet on illegal sites, bet with Play Now instead. Manitoba's local, legal, and secure gambling site, 18 plus. Enjoy responsibly. Big thanks to our friends at Play Now. By the way, coming up on Saturday, we're going to launch another contest where we are going to send a lucky winner in conjunction with our friends at Play Now to another Jets game. We've done a couple of these already this year. We're going to launch the contest on Saturday morning during the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Be sure that you're following us on social media, on our Instagram, on our Facebook page at Illegal Curve. Make sure you're doing the same with our friends at Play Now, and we are going to send one lucky winner to an upcoming Jets game that's going to be coming up starting on Monday is when the contest is going to open. So stay tuned for details regarding that. Always appreciate the support from our friends at Play Now. This is, he's not, getting the headlines. If you didn't watch tonight's game, you wouldn't notice the impact of Josh Morrissey necessarily. You'd see the goal, of course, the tying goal, and that's important. But Josh Morrissey really just sort of affirmed himself throughout the course of this game as one of those elite defensemen. You heard it on the broadcast that, Shane Knighty and Thomas Hickey and John Forsland talking about him as a top 10 NHL defenseman. And I think a lot of people really appreciated how good he is in the Four Nations Cup. Of course, he wasn't able to play the gold medal game, but just the way he sort of dragged this Winnipeg Jets team to victory with his play in the third period. Here's some numbers courtesy of our buddy Connor Harabchuk. Josh Morrissey played 22 minutes and 25 seconds at 5-on-5 in tonight's game. The shot attempts when he was on the ice, 30-12. The scoring chances in favor of the Winnipeg Jets, 15-6. The high danger chances, 11-3. And the expected goals percentage of 73%. Josh Morrissey.
Is that good?
That's good. He was a one-man wrecking crew on the ice tonight for the Winnipeg Jets.
Absolutely. And, what did he finish with overall? You said 22 and a half. I think he was around 29.
5-on-5.
Right. And he was over 29.
Game. Yeah, he was over.
Yeah, almost at 30 minutes, right? And obviously
29-35.
Right. And obviously the overtime bumps that up a little bit, right, guys? But what's the most impressive about that is he's coming off of the flu, right? So that was kind of a storyline, right? Like heading into this game, obviously the big storyline was, the Jets going for their 10th win in a row. And obviously, Connor Hellebuyck getting back between the pipes. But it was also, Josh Morrissey, how's he going to look in his first game? And it wasn't a big question mark, guys. I mean, when you're a veteran like Morrissey and a top 10 defenseman in the league, you know that he's going to come back and he's going to be good. But he wasn't just good tonight. Like you said, Drew, those stats don't lie. The underlying numbers are it's complete dominance. And like we said, he was all over the ice especially in that third period in the overtime, but also earlier in the game, right? It's the 4 shots on net. It's the fact that he was out there controlling the power play. Like he didn't miss a beat. So Morrissey was excellent tonight. And look, the Jets had their chances, right? Cole Perfetti had the chance early in the first period on the 2-on-1 with Ehlers, right? And then Nemesnikov had that in the first period. They obviously didn't score. But Morrissey hits the post. I believe that was in the second period, right? So, I mean, the Jets were playing well. Like all the underlying numbers for the team, not just Morrissey, were really good. Like this Sharks team clearly was a tired group after the game in Calgary last night. And you give them credit. They played, they were 30 seconds away from stealing a game, right? Mm-hmm. So you got to give them credit for that. But it was largely Vitek Vanacek that he was responsible for that game being a 1-0 game up until Josh Morrissey's goal, right? So, but yeah, Morrissey's incredible. And, sometimes guys, like we talk about, the Jets elite players like Scheifele and Connor and Ehlers, and you run Hellebuck, obviously, you run out of things to say, but not me. I mean, Morrissey is just, we've watched him since he came into the NHL, and Dave always talks about, he spent a little bit of time in the Moose, and, he has turned into, like I said, top 10, arguably top 5, right? Top 3. I mean, like I have time to hear that argument. Obviously, we're a little bit biased being a Jet-centric show. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Drew. I mean, Morrissey deserves a lot of credit for he put the team on his back tonight.
And it's not the first time we've seen it, Dave. I wanted to get you in. Josh Morrissey sort of coming down that left side, the goalie's right, when the Jets have needed a goal desperately in the final minutes of games where they've been trailing, not necessarily this year, but in years past. And he somehow just sort of drags the team into getting that goal. And, when I thought this one was done, when the Jets, had to go and retrieve the puck just before it got into their own net on the empty netter, before Morrissey scored, when he transitioned it up the ice, when there was that, 32 seconds to go, and the puck just stopped a little bit short of the Jets' crease. And Morrissey had been on the ice at this point in time for basically more than 2 minutes. He's at probably a minute 55 at this point, and he somehow digs deeper to get the puck back up the ice and individually carry it into the zone and blast it past Vanacek. I just don't know where he found the reserves in order to do that at that point. That to me was, just as impressive as anything else we saw tonight.
I'm trying to figure out how he was over 2 minutes, but he played a minute 55. But regardless of your maritime math there, Drew, hey, you're always calling me on my stuff.
Shout out to Slick Rick.
Yeah, there we go. But no, I mean, Josh Morrissey was like, that was beast mode. That was crazy to see him play. And like I said, like just that the final 2.5 minutes of the game overall. And like, I mean, it's got to be his career high, obviously, for hockey. I don't think he's ever played. Has he had a game over 30?
I'd have to look back.
Maybe there might have been a game where the Jets were lost a defenseman to injury, and maybe. But anyways,
but regardless, Dave, if Morrissey's had a game over 30 during the regular season, obviously it's been few and far between.
Yeah, and I think that it's just another example. I mean, look, we don't need. I think, Drew, your point is well made, and we saw it with Kyle Connor on Saturday night with the shootout winner. And we heard from Kyle Connor, and if you didn't listen to that media availability from following morning skate, well, you should be. And of course, make sure you like that one. Make sure you're subscribing to all of our stuff. But Drew made this point on Twitter, talking about how the Four Nations won't just have a positive effect, but it'll light a fire. And it's lit a fire under Mark Scheifele for the snub. It lit a fire for Kyle Connor for the snub being held out of that game on Thursday night, the championship game in Boston. And Josh Morrissey, we heard from, I don't have that media availability, but that was on Sunday. You could hear how gutted he was not being able to play that game. But he, again, cared more about the team success than his own, because he probably could have tried to, I'm not going to use the word stomach it, to try and get through that game or at least play in it. But he chose not to. He chose to go back to the hotel, watch it, and let his team win, because it was more important for him, for the collective group to win. But you know how much it killed him not to play in that game. And Connor Hellebuck also spoke about the game and processing it and everything like that. So there really is, again, it's a Jets team that already seemed ignited based on the embarrassment of last year's first round exit at the hands of the Colorado Avalanche. So we knew they were already going to be a motivated group, but it seems like, and again, this is just game 58 of the season, so there's still some 24 games to go, but this is a motivated, highly motivated group, Ezzy, and we saw it from all the players in tonight's game.
Yeah, and it's just, this is what really good teams do, right, Drew? I know we want to get into the first goal, but I mean, that's like an average team that outshoots their opponent loses that game tonight and gets goalied, right? But like, it's such a cliche to say the Jets found a way to win, but they do that, right? And you look at, like, they did it against the game against St. Louis was not a beauty either, right? Like, let's be honest here. And we were expecting it to be a little bit sloppy. But you think of the game against the Capitals, right? You think about the game against the Islanders, like, these are games, it's not like everything it wasn't linear, perfect from start to finish, right? Like the Jets
sure.
have obviously had those types of games, but Dave always talks about it, like the resiliency, right? Like they depending on what type of game is in front of them, they'll find a way to stick to it. And that's the thing. The Jets could have got frustrated there, and they were throwing the kitchen sink at Vitek Vanacek. They stuck with it. And then, you get a fortuitous bounce on the Josh Morrissey goal off of Ferraro's leg or body or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what good teams do, right? Like there's just so much confidence in this group that, you're down a goal in the third period and you're badly out shooting the Sharks. You stick with it and you wait till the last minute, tie it up. And then obviously all the momentum was in the Jets' favor in overtime. We talked about it. I mean, it's just such a mismatch, to see the players the Jets can put out on the ice. And I'm not sure why Macklin Celebrini didn't start overtime. By the way,
curious about also. I'm like, I put the best guy on your team out there to start the overtime. I mean, the guy who's certainly the most noticeable up and down the ice, both in the defensive zone and the offensive zone. But regardless,
it was Colin Graff. Sorry, Colin Graff started overtime for the Sharks. So
not
there
a
you
household
go.
name. Not a household name. In any event, 2-1, the Jets do win tonight. The goal-by-goal recap we've already played the bumper, so I don't need to play it again. The Jets really controlled this game start to finish. I mean, we know that. It was, they had numerous scoring chances in the first period. The high danger chances in the course of the game were 15-6 in the Jets' favor.
Drew, I'm pretty sure the Nemestikov line alone in the first period had 5 high danger chances to the Sharks 2.
Again, it was the fact that it wasn't 3-0 for the Jets after the first 7 minutes of the game, in and of itself was a bit of a surprise, just how dominant they were. But then San Jose capitalizes on their opportunity. This occurs with Adam Lowry in the penalty box. So it's a bit of a weird goal. It's a 4-on-3 power play goal, which doesn't typically happen, in anything other than overtime. You have Lowry and Thompson both in the, Ehlers and Thompson both in the box for coincidental roughing minors, and then Adam Lowry with a strong net drive on Vanacek.
I thought that was kind of a gray area call. I know Dave made the comment on X about it, but I think it was Shakir Mukhamadullin, who I actually thought, by the way, I could say his name 100 times. It's a great name.
But every time I hear his name, like when I heard John Forsland saying his name, for whatever reason, I just kept thinking about Mick Magoo, the referee.
Wow. Great reference.
I don't know why that was. It just sort of kept I kept hearing him, and like I said, John does a great job. And I'm like, for whatever reason, Mick Magoo just kept popping into my head.
No, it makes sense. Mick Magoo, Mukhamadullin. I mean, he was a Devils first round draft pick, right?
Right.
And
he was in the Meyer trade.
Exactly. He was part of the Timo Meyer trade with Fabian Zetterlund, right? So, I mean, but I thought Mukhamadullin I just thought he kind of gave Lowry a little bit of that kind of push from the side, that kind of like, I don't know. All I'm saying is, look, I mean, the Jets ended up winning the game, but I just thought that the refs could have easily just let that go based on the fact Mukhamadullin was kind of edging and pushing Lowry into Vanacek. But maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Well, Lowry certainly didn't like the call. You could hear him on the Prime broadcast. Dave, you would have been at the arena, so you wouldn't hear it. But when he got called for the goalie interference, he basically said exactly what you just said, Ezzy, but he said it with a lot more words that weren't frick. Let me just say. Then got picked up on the broadcast. I was watching with my son, and he's like, "Oh my gosh!"
The word was frack. It was frick, and frack. Yeah.
I don't mind the call because I thought Lowry was a little out of control in that sequence, Dave. That was my thought, is that, yes, I know what he's trying to do. I know he's trying to drive the net hard, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to be a little bit within control and in control of your body. And that's, to me, why I think he got called for that.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand it. I mean, let's put it this way. Just imagine, Ryan O'Reilly hitting Connor Hellebuck the same way. I don't think Jets fans would be too pleased, and they would probably be screaming bloody murder if that was the case. So, sure, but you have to be in control. And, he ends up, and as I was talking to our boy, Paulie Edmonds, in the first intermission, and he said, there was quite a pop, and Paul's, we're farther from the Sharks net in the third periods than we are obviously in the second.
I was sorry, Dave. Like, I know we want to get into the goal here.
No, we're fine.
But like we were saying earlier, there's only 3 goals to talk about, so let's delay this as much as we can. No, I'm just kidding. But I was surprised that Vanacek was so solid and didn't go like Vanacek. What is he? 6'1", 6'2"? I mean, but Adam Lowry is a big boy, and he went in hard on Vanacek. So good on Vanacek for like holding his own and not even going down there.
Well, first of all, we also glazed over the Henry Thune welcome to Winnipeg hit from Adam Lowry, just whatever it was, like a minute and a half into the game, where the captain gave him a little friendly Manitoba that the crowd in Winnipeg loved. But yeah, I mean, I can understand it, but at the end of the day, the NHL wants to protect goaltenders, and while Adam Lowry doesn't like it, I can understand why the league made the call.
Especially a goalie who was in his own
refs
paint.
made the call, sorry.
He was in the paint, everything else. Vanacek played it like he should, and Lowry just hit him. He hit him solidly right in the emblem. He got him good.
Yeah, and that's all I wanted to say, Drew. Like, I just, like, again, we can get to the goal here. I just thought that was one of those ones that I like right before the call was made. I was thinking, that's probably not going to get called. So I was just personally, I was a little bit surprised. And there are some people in the chat agreeing with me. So as we always say,
surprised about that as well.
The chat is really the judge and the jury.
Yes. And the executioner as well. In any event, with Lowry in the box now for goaltender interference, it's still the 4-on-3 situation. William Eklund gets his 12th of the year, assist to Macklin, Celebrini, and Will Smith. And it certainly looked for the longest time like that was going to stand up as the Seagram shot of the game, which we'll get to coming up momentarily. A real nice shot by Eklund. I mean, he goes bar and down, nothing that Connor Hellebuyck could do on that one. Hellebuyck, a quiet night, only facing 18 shots in the course of this game. But you know what? When you give another team an opportunity, especially with a 4-on-3 man advantage, they can easily take advantage of that. And the Sharks, we know where they're lacking, but they do have some young goal scorers who can put the puck in the net. And William Eklund did it here, his 12th of the year, to give the Sharks the early 1-0 lead, or I guess the 1-0 lead 15 minutes into the game. Not that early.
Yeah, well, you've got a 7th overall pick assisted by a 1st overall pick and a 4th overall pick. So that's what we were saying earlier, right? Like, the Sharks are a terrible team, but they're going to be good. Give them like some years, and they're obviously going to supplement these players, and that's why they brought in the Barclay Goodrows. And by the way, just as a quick aside, sorry, I'm being very ADHD right now, but can we talk about the fact that Marc-Edouard Vlasic went 1-on-3 and drew a penalty? Like, this is not a young Marc-Edouard Vlasic.
This is a healthy scratch, Marc-Edouard.
I was going to say, he's a healthy scratch yesterday in Calgary.
Like, Marc-Edouard Vlasic coming in there on a 1-on-3. I just thought, drawing the penalty on Dylan DeMello deserved a little bit of attention. But yeah, I mean, this is just good execution, right? We talked about it. The Sharks' power play is nothing to write home about. But Celebrini and Smith,
Celebrini on 3. There's a lot of space on that ice.
Exactly, and it was a nice pass and just a nice shot. And obviously, Hellebuyck, you're not going to fault him. That was a nice shot by William Eklund. Dave, one of those players that we talked about, along with Smith and Celebrini, are going to be scoring a lot of goals for the Sharks team in the years to come.
You broke it down, so I don't need to go over it. But I just thought it was one of the points that we discussed was how many guys have irregular numbers in San Jose. I think the young kids are all their numbers are all in the 70s. It's not the traditional numbers you're used to seeing.
And Tyler Toffoli is, of course,
he's 73, but so they go 71, 72, 73 on that line. So it was just kind of funny that we one of the things we noticed. But you're right, there's a ton of talent.
It's not like they're the Montreal Canadiens and they have all the good numbers retired.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point, Drew. But there's a lot of things to look forward to if you're a San Jose Sharks fan. But it might be a few years before that's the case.
That's right.
They played hard, though, and you got to give them credit because, like I said, they easily could have been a tired team up against a tough Jets team and rolled over, but they did not do that tonight.
They didn't. So 1-0 at that point in time, and that's really where it went until the last 25 seconds of the game. But, the Jets had their scoring opportunities. So it's not for a lack of opportunity that they weren't able to tie this game sooner than that. You remember that Cole Perfetti had his breakaway. Kyle Connor had some grade A opportunities that he would normally capitalize. Colin Miller, he hits a crossbar with that heavy booming shot of his. Mark Scheifele, I think, caught iron once. Adam Lowry had some good opportunities. So there was chances galore for the Winnipeg Jets. They just weren't able to get anything past Vanacek until late in the game, Dave.
Think about that chance that Kyle Connor had right in front, and how many times have we seen him bury it? There was a Mark Scheifele, there was a one-timer to Scheifele that he put wide. I mean, again, it was
and when the Jets were out there for a minute and a half, sorry, Dave, when the first power play unit was out there on that first power play, and Connor was ripping the puck, like, so, I mean, look, this wasn't a game where the Jets were sleepy and weren't getting high danger chances. Like Drew said, they were 15-6. So, I mean, that's about as one-sided as you're going to get.
I just felt like they were disconnected, from what we're used to seeing. I mean, again, this is just a team that is you normally, and the power play is looking like a little bit, even though they had their chances, Ezzy. What did they finish at, Drew? Was it over 3?
Over 2.
Over 2. So they right. The Sharks had 3. The Jets had 2. So they were over 2, but over 2 tonight. Over 2 against St. Louis. Is there a crisis in Winnipeg? But it was interesting to note that this morning when we were down at Hockey for All, Canada Life Center, for morning skate, which started at 9:15. That
why did it start so early? I got to work and Dave is already tweeting out the lines. Like I'm like it's not even 9:30 yet.
Because it was a 6:30 start.
I know, but I did expect. As he's right, I thought they'd start at 9:30 as opposed to. But whatever. That's not really a big deal. But yeah, they started at 9:15. But yeah, I mean my point is that they were starting with power play. So the guys, there was only 10, 12 guys out there ready to kind of get that worked on. And it just goes to show you, I mean, it's impressive. This is the first place team, but one of the things they wanted to work on was their power play. And they did it on Friday before they left for St. Louis. They did special teams, but still, I
think they'll be all right, Dave.
Sure. There's no question about it, Ezzy, but they weren't satisfied is what I'm saying. It's easy to sit back and say, we've got the top power play unit and we'll figure it out. But instead they were working on it this morning to start the morning skate. So I think a testament to Davis Payne and his crew, ensuring that this team stays tip top, because like I said, when you look at the numbers from 25 games ago, Jets were the first place power play units. Now they still remain in that spot because of that hard work.
And like I said earlier, Dave, I did the research for you since January 1st.
Yep.
I know we're talking about the power play, but the PK is 7th in the NHL. So yes, you look at the PK now, it's like 14th or 15th. But the key thing is since the new year, since the calendar flipped, the Jets are 7th. So number 1 power play, obviously, for the majority of the year, if not the whole year, and 7th ranked PK over the last couple months. You got to love those numbers, right?
Yeah, I don't think you did drop that number. I thought you dropped the other one, but 7th overall.
Well, yeah, San Jose was dead last in the NHL in the last couple months, but I mean, it's a huge storyline, guys. Like you can't underestimate how much better the special teams have been. Mm-hmm. And Davis Payne and Dean Chanel deserve a lot of credit for that. I mean, they've brought in a great system, and even though the Jets haven't scored a power play goal the last 2 games, they're still at 32% or whatever they're at.
And as to the point you made, because it's the one we've been harping on for the entirety of this season, because we knew that the power play was good, and we would say elite, Drew, because it is historic right now what it's doing. But I will say that we always talked about how important the PK was. And now that the PK, I'd say the research that our crack research team, Ezra Ginsburg, was doing, then that's significant. And like we talked about, they were 21st when they played the Sharks back in December, whenever it was, and now they're 14th.
Jets tied it up late in the third period, as we all know, with 25 seconds to go. Nikolai Ehlers across the ice to Mark Scheifele. Scheifele gains the zone, and he banks it behind the net back to Ehlers. Ehlers takes a shot on Vanacek from a bad angle. Mario Ferraro goes to clear it away. Unfortunately, he clears it right onto the stick of Josh Morrissey, and Josh Morrissey is able to step into it for a one-timer, and it deflects again off of poor Mario Ferraro past Vitek Vanacek, tying the game at 1 goal apiece and giving the Jets life late in the game and giving us our Seagram shot of the game.
The Seagram shot of the game.
It all looked for naught. I don't particularly love Ehlers decision to sort of take that bad angle shot. I guess
Yeah.
you're desperate. You try and throw anything you can on net. And then Ferraro, I mean, the Sharks were just desperate. They had nothing left in the tank.
They were so tired, Drew.
Yeah. He just sort of tries to shuffle it away, and unfortunately he shuffles it onto the stick of a hard charging Josh Morrissey, who somehow still has the energy to have a lot of hard in his charge, and he wires it past Vanacek to tie it up, and everyone just sort of erupts. And those of us who've been watching this team for the last whatever game number of the year this is now, we just shake our head as this team somehow manages to find a way yet again. Second consecutive come from behind effort to tie the game, and then of course it ends with the victory. But I mean, look, the Jets just find a way to keep doing it.
Yeah, and obviously, guys, like we already touched on the Morrissey goal. It was not a beauty goal, even though it gets the Seagram shot of the game tonight. It obviously was not a beauty. And like you said, Drew, like that to me, Ehlers putting the puck on net like that and taking that shot, that's the definition of throwing the kitchen sink at Vitek Vanacek, right? And then it obviously ends up working out. But what did the Jets pull the goalie with a couple of minutes left? But it was the 3 or 4 minutes prior to that where the puck was in the Shark zone for all of that time. And obviously Morrissey was out there for a big chunk of that, but Scheifele had that scoring chance. Like Scheifele, Connor Velarde were obviously out there, and they were creating, and the Sharks were just trying to clear the zone and just get that game, trying to get the game to the buzzer. So, I mean, I think,
30 seconds of their lives.
Absolutely. So, I mean, look,
that's
you talk about advanced stats and everything like that and the eye test. I mean, they both matched up tonight. The Jets deserved to win this game. Yeah. And if they were going to lose this game 1-0, everybody was just like, we would just have been using Vanacek as a verb. That's all we would have been doing, boys. Yeah, exactly. We would just been repeating Vanacek, similar to Karel Vermelka. So
yeah,
I thought it was fitting, Dave, that Morrissey got that goal, because obviously didn't get to play in the gold medal game of the Four Nations Challenge, and he was an absolute, what did you call him, Dave? You called him a beast tonight.
Yeah, no, he was, and you're right. And good on Nikolai Ehlers, at least. I know you don't love some of the decisions, but at least he gets out of the way of the shot, right? He lets Morrissey get that shot, jumps out of it, and you can just see the emotion in the building. And that's, I guess, the one negative, of course, of leaving to do the show is that you missed third. I mean, I didn't realize the Jets were going to be a third period comeback team, boys. I might have to start doing the home games at the arena as opposed to coming to the Maison to do that. But at the end of the day, I suspect most people didn't leave their seats because they knew there's a very good chance that this team was going to come back and win this game, or at least, force some overtime. But, and I think the other thing also, we should probably mention, and I think we did already in the preamble, but it's worth mentioning again, I think, is that they didn't really show a panic, right? Like as good as this game was, the Jets had the net. I think they pulled Hellebuck with about 2 minutes to go, or just under the 2-minute mark, I think, Drew, in that range. And yet there was opportunities when the puck was in the neutral zone. And like you mentioned, Josh Morrissey going and getting that puck that fell short. But the Jets just kind of maintained their structure. And the Sharks, you could just tell the Sharks were gassed at this point, which is where the advantage was in the Jets' favor, because the Sharks' legs were just beyond heavy and the Jets were pretty relentless. So, I mean, it's just another one of those, like, of course, Josh Morrissey scores with 25.9 seconds to go to send this game to overtime. I mean, because that's the story that's been written so far in this 24-25 season.
And then the Jets win it in overtime, 1:33. Mark Scheifele, it's the franchise leader in goals scored now, passing Ilya Kovalchuk. We need not rehash the debate about the record. Scheifele himself post-game said the real record in his mind is Dale Hawerchuk's record, which he will break at some point in his career as a member of the Winnipeg Jets. But
like for 2 years or something like that.
Yeah, for the time being.
By the way, sorry, Drew, can I just, I'm not sure if you guys saw Mike McIntyre's tweet, just speaking of breaking records. There's 12, I think there's 12 games. No, 12 games, but the Jets play the Capitals on March 25th.
Yes.
And Ovechkin is 12 goals away from. I mean, I'm just saying it could happen against the Jets.
Well, and Ovechkin's had his fair share of goals versus the Thrashers Jets franchise over the years.
Although it's interesting because they posted that last time that when the Jets were in Washington, they posted that, but really, as I think pointed out by someone in our thing, but in our and I ran back and looked, most of the goals are against Atlanta. No surprise, of course.
Right.
No, I understand that, but they made it sound like it was like it was the Jets graphic, and then down below it was like Jets Thrashers, but 70%, 80% of the goals were against Atlanta. But I mean, as folks know, Steven Stamkos' 60th, which he got an ovation for.
Yes.
Sidney Crosby's 1,000th point. Like, there's been a lot of milestone games here in Winnipeg. I don't suspect that Ovechkin would get a lot of cheers in Manitoba for certain reasons, but I suspect, like I said, it's definitely possible, Ezzy, that it could happen.
No question about it. Mark Scheifele, his 32nd of the season, assist to Nikolai Ehlers, his 32nd assist of the year, and Kyle Connor is the overtime winner. The Jets really were working the weave very well, the three-man weave. They were moving the puck. They had the Sharks on the heels. The Sharks, and I mean, frankly, Scheifele was at the end of a shift as well. So was Morrissey. He was also, they'd been on the ice for the entirety of the overtime. So they each had a minute 27. Connor gets the assist, even though he's now gone off the ice. He's off the ice, and it's Ehlers who jumps on for him. And Ehlers is the fresh guy. He's coming downhill. He gets that shot on goal, and Scheifele is able to poke the rebound past Vanacek, which is a good thing because Scheifele and Morrissey both would have been completely gassed if the Sharks had transitioned the puck back up the ice. But the same way, I guess the Sharks would have been equally gassed because they'd been on the ice that whole time as well. In any event, it makes it a 2-1 Winnipeg Jets victory. Just another remarkable victory and a season of remarkable victories for the Winnipeg Jets. This one, their 10th in a row. They continue to feel good about themselves and to affirm themselves atop the NHL standings with tonight's victory over the San Jose Sharks.
Absolutely. And, I think, guys, you have no problem with Morrissey and Scheifele being out there, not just because they obviously scored the goal, but because they were so good throughout the game, and especially in the third period, getting all of those chances. Not just the goal that was scored by Morrissey late in the third period, right? But, we talked about it. It was a pretty big mismatch who the Sharks had on I forget who else it was. I think it was Wenberg, Colin Graff, and Mario Ferraro, if I'm not mistaken, who started the overtime versus Scheifele, Connor, Morrissey, right? So, a little bit of a mismatch there, but I mean, it was just, I don't know what you call it, but it was just, I think, fitting, who got the goal. And like we said, Ehlers comes off the bench for Connor, blasts it, and, just a nice rebound because Vanacek was there. He went to poke check it, and Scheifele was just, beat him to it. Yeah. So it was just a kind of hardworking goal. It wasn't a pretty goal or anything like that, but we've seen, Scheifele and Morrissey, Ehlers, Connor, these guys, we've seen them, perform a lot of magic in the extra frame. And like you said, they find a way to win because it was looking like, it was going to be a 1-0 loss until 26 seconds left in the game, but they're keeping the magic going, boys, and they have a chance to make it 11 in a row on Wednesday
night against the Ottawa Senators. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
That's okay. I was going to say, if we're talking about record setting, so Ehlers' assist, though, as Ian Drew, moves him past Ilya Kovalchuk on the franchise assist leaderboard. So while
they're leaving Kovalchuk in the dust tonight,
he's getting left behind. But the one play I want to highlight, because I think it saved the game for the Jets, was Josh Morrissey saving the Jets in overtime.
Yeah.
Which, gets, I mean, again, it was.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
He made a nice defensive play to break up the scoring chance.
There was a very good, I don't know if it was Celebrini. I can't remember if it was, but he wasn't on the ice. He wasn't on the ice at all.
Wasn't it Alex Wenberg?
No, it was sorry. You're right.
Sharks didn't do a line change in overtime.
Yeah, you're right. No, you're
Celebrini
right.
didn't get out there, Dave.
No, you're right. It was Wenberg.
Which I think I don't understand, but go ahead.
By the way, I like Dan's comment. What is this, Thrasher's lunch? Well done, Dan. But no, I mean, I just thought it was it's just that's the idea of that beast mode by Morrissey, because if he doesn't make that play, if he doesn't play hard, that could have ended up, I'm not saying for sure it was, but it's just one of those plays that you kind of take note of, and then it gets quickly lost because everybody's focused on the goal and Scheifele setting the record. But really, to me, again, that's a testament to the commitment to defense. And you saw it throughout the course of this hockey game, because even though, like I said, I thought it was probably one of the most unwatchable hockey games, even though I'm glad there's over 500 of the folks right now in the chat, smash that like button. But which it was for a large part of this hockey game. I'm always honest with you folks, and I did think the game was unwatchable. I thought the Jets were, as Ezzy told me to save it for the show, I thought the Jets were taking way too many shots into the crests of Vanacek, and I thought that they were disconnected. But you watch the hard work. And again, it pays off because this team just continues to roll along and, just add their 10th win and set a franchise record now for wins in for the Winnipeg based NHL team here in Manitoba.
No question about it. 10 wins in a row for the Winnipeg Jets. We'll go to break, and when we come back on the other side of the break, an interesting stat for you regarding the Jets vis-a-vis the recent success of the Dallas Stars. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk,
with the teaser. I like it.
Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg with you. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and of course, turn your notifications on so you know when we go live each and every time here on the Illegal Curve YouTube channel. More to come on this Monday night.
We want to thank you for not betting with Play Now and choosing our illegal gambling site instead.
Because we couldn't afford things like this without your money.
So much of your money.
Now you might have questions like,
do our profits benefit your community?
No.
Or bet with Play Now, Manitoba's local legal and secure gambling site.
Dining, entertainment, parking, and convenience, all in one spot. City Place is located in the heart of downtown Winnipeg, attached to the Canada Life Center. Whether you're working, living, or out for a night in the downtown, make City Place your go-to destination before or after the fun finds you. Lunchtime, game time, anytime, visit City Place at 333 St. Mary Avenue, next to Canada Life Center. Holt Dental, the new official dentist of Illegal Curve, has a philosophy rooted in two unyielding principles: genuinely caring about patients and providing outstanding service. Being a patient of Holt Dental means more than just checkups and treatments. It's taking the time to listen and talk to each patient so they can achieve the best long-term health, functionality, and aesthetics for their teeth, mouth, and gums. Conveniently located at Grant Park Festival on Taylor Avenue, Holt Dental is dentistry of the highest quality in a comfortable and relaxed environment. For more information, visit holtdental.ca. Oh, and there's plenty of free parking at the front door, too. Celebrating its 40th year as Winnipeg's home for stand-up comedy, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club has recently been named Canada's top comedy club and a top 5 comedy club in North America. From birthday parties to date nights to fundraisers and everything in between, Rumors is your destination for the best and most affordable live entertainment Winnipeg has to offer. For more information on upcoming shows, Rumors' incredible promotions, and to purchase tickets, visit rumorscomedyclub.com.
At Boston Pizza, a fast lunch doesn't have to mean fast food. Now you can get a $15 lunch served in just 20 minutes, including your choice of a main, side, and drink. That's right, lunch for $15 at your local Boston Pizza.
Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Minuk, Ezra Ginsburg. It's brought to you by our friends at Play Now. Thanks to them for their continued support of the show. Imagine for a moment you are the Dallas Stars, the Winnipeg Jets in the standings. You know, you're battling hard. You're trying to gain ground. You go 8-1-1 in your last 10 games. Pretty good record, right? And somehow you've managed to lose 3 points in the standings to the Winnipeg Jets in that same time frame. Just imagine, what do you do if you're the Dallas Stars at that point in time? You just got to say, okay, I guess it's not going to be our year. It's like the year the Jets finished second to the Nashville Predators. They would have to go on they'd have to continue playing at a hell of a clip, and Washington would have to take a bit of a step back. But it's entirely feasible that the two of the top 3 teams in the NHL are going to come out of the Central Division again this year. The Stars currently 3rd overall in the NHL, 8-1-1 in their last 10, and they somehow are lose 3 points in the standings to the Jets.
It's ridiculous. It's a 2-horse race. Like, all due respect to the Minnesota Wild, they're 13 points back of the Winnipeg Jets right now.
Having a great year.
And by the way, they've won 3 in a row.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's going to be tough for Dallas to catch the Jets, but obviously the Wild, the best they're going to do is maybe second in the Central, but I wouldn't count on it the way the Stars are playing. But yeah, just incredible. I mean, 10 wins in a row, guys, and we talked about it before the Four Nations break, right? Like the Jets have had winning streaks of 7 games in a row or more 3 times this year. And there's a decent amount of season left, right, guys? Like the Jets are going to lose presumably again. I don't know when it's going to happen. I mean, there is a back-to-back coming up, and Ottawa's having a pretty good year. Obviously, Nashville is not. But I mean, let's just enjoy this crazy ride the Jets are on. It's incredible.
Yeah. It is incredible. I mean, it's funny. 2 of the top 3 teams in the league are in the Central, and 2 of the worst 3 teams in the league are also in the Central Division, that being the Blackhawks and the Nashville Predators. So a tale of 2 divisions, if you will, in the Central, between the top and the bottom.
That's the story. I'm laughing because that's the first time I've heard the Blackhawks brought up in like months.
Oh, do they exist?
Like, I honestly, exactly. It's like, do they still play hockey?
They might as well not, but I mean, apparently they still do. But who the hell cares about them? There's no reason to pay any attention to them. I guess if Seth Jones or some of their other depth players get moved at the deadline, they might be a little bit relevant. But that's about it. The deadline, of course, about 13 days away, a little
11.
less than that. 11.
11.
I guess it's 11. I'm all screwed up with this Monday game. Mondays screw me up. The rest of the week gets screwed up. Wednesday, the Jets are in Ottawa to play the Senators. Thursday, they're in Nashville to play the Predators, and then they're home on Saturday to face the Philadelphia Flyers. So that's the rest of the week, which means we'll be back Wednesday night for another edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show. I presume at least, it's a 6:00 start on Wednesday night. I should know. Okay, then so that means post-game show right around 8:45 or so, between after the Jets and the Ottawa Senators in the nation's capital, Canada's nation's capital, just to be clear on that front. We will look forward to that on the Wednesday night. Yes, Dave, one final thought to you, and then we
where's my final thought there, Drew?
And then Drew has a hard stop 10:30 bedtime.
I'm tired.
Well, I mean, the one thing I don't know if did they show KFC's biggest fan?
No, the person wearing the bucket on their head.
Got to give shout out to that lady. Sharp eyes of Judy Owen. I've mentioned Judy a couple times on the broadcast, but Judy would notice and pointed her out to me and said, "Check that out, Davo." And I checked it out, and sure enough, I was like, "Oh, that's hilarious." Person's wearing a Kyle frickin' Connor KFC hat on her head, a little bucket of chicken. No word is as to whether there was any chicken in
That's
the bucket.
what I was going to ask you. I was going to say, like, was there any chicken in that hat?
That's very important.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I mean, I love it. I mean, that's the thing.
You know that KFC is no longer headquartered in Kentucky? They just announced that last week, that they're moving the headquarters of KFC out of Kentucky.
Let's see if I can get
You know what, there. Drew, that's appalling.
Isn't it appalling?
It's not right. That's just not right. How can Kentucky Fried I realize it's called KFC now, but it's still Kentucky Fried Chicken. How do you move it out of Kentucky? That doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense, but it's of course a big conglomerate and everything else, and it used to be headquartered in Louisville. It's no longer headquartered in Louisville. They're moving. Lots of people lost their jobs, which of course we're always upset about. But KFC is not going to be in Kentucky, and I personally am going to go down there next time I'm in Kentucky. I'm going to protest.
I agree. You should throw some chicken.
I'm becoming a Popeyes guy. That's it. Popeyes, I'm going to Louisiana. I'm not going to Kentucky anymore for my chicken.
Well, Drew, you know this. Popeyes is way better, anyways.
I haven't had KFC. I couldn't tell you the last time I had KFC.
Yeah. Well, when was the last time you had? When was the last time you had diarrhea? That'll remind you.
Drew. Anyways,
on that note,
I was just gonna say, but I guess my point is that I love the fact that Jets fans are having fun. Shout out, by the way, to the Sharks fan who came wearing a Sharks hat, a land shark hat on during the pregame. I noticed them. I didn't see them where they disappeared to, but they were wearing literally a shark's head on their own head while taking selfies in front during warm-up. So shout out to the fans. Always enjoyable and shout out to Pokey Reddick.
There you go. And hell of a night in downtown Winnipeg. The Jets end up victorious 2-1. Over the San Jose Sharks, getting a late goal and then an overtime winner. Big thanks to all of you for joining us. Great crowd tonight. Big numbers. Always appreciate that. Be sure to join us again on Wednesday night after the Jets and the Ottawa Senators right around 8:40, 8:45 p.m. for that. Big thanks to all of our sponsors. That's our friends, of course, at Play Now, Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, Holt Dental, Boston Pizza. They have good chicken at Boston Pizza, so you should check them out as well. City Place and our friends at Seagram's support these fine businesses because of their continued support of Illegal Curve Hockey. If you haven't already done so, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on, visit illegalcurve.com, and be sure to be back on Wednesday night to join us again for another edition of the Illegal Curve post-game show. For Dave Manouk, for Ezra Ginsburg, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Until Wednesday at 8:45 p.m., we wish you good night and good luck, and thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.